Hello and welcome to the Photo Bar, the podcast talking all about the business and lifestyle photography while drinking beer. This is episode number 13, The Importance of Maintaining Your Health. Hey, my name is Matt Daley, and my goal is to help you become a better person, a better photographer, and a better entrepreneur. In today's episode, we actually have our friend Matt Daley, who is an online fitness and nutrition coach, and he will be stopping by the bar today to talk about health. But until then, Amanda, what's been up with you?
Not too much, dude. I did a family shoot this morning, and then I came home and had a nap. What about you?
Fuck yeah, naps. I did.
It's your favorite topic, right?
Yeah, I know, right? I didn't have a nap today or yesterday, actually. So yesterday I shot a wedding. It was like probably 15 or 16 hours of, I mean, not really shooting, but you know, by the time you pack shit and like you drive there, you kind of get into the groove of things, then you shoot. I think it was like only 12 hours of shooting, but you know, it was like an hour and a half-ish away there and back. So
wow, that's a long drive, but that's pretty cool. Were you pretty tired at the end? Did you have any problems staying awake on your drive?
No, not at all. I'm always so freaking amped up. You know, like when you go to a job, you're always excited and like you're kind of nervous sometimes, you know, so there's no being sleepy at that time. Plus I had like 15 cups of coffee or whatever.
Just 15?
And then,
slow day, huh?
And then, you know, on the way back, man, you're still freaking amped up from all of the excitement and shooting and everything that, yeah, I'm usually not very tired. It takes me a while to wind down, like when I get home from weddings.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself doing that? Like where you just stay up for freaking hours at a time?
I always am backing everything up anyway, so I do stay up a while. But yeah, I'm also kind of, I need to have a little bit of a crash or whatever and chill out. So I'll usually sit at my computer and back everything up. And that takes an hour or two, depending on, you know, whether everything's being friendly or not. And I'll watch some YouTube videos or something like that and just have a drink.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, because I actually, I back up at weddings, like kind of throughout the day. So by the time I get home, like I already have like 4 backups. And then I'll just take that one drive that I have and just kind of plug that in and it just backs up to like the on-site ones at my house or whatever. So yeah.
That sounds pretty smart. I haven't gotten into that habit yet. I mean, my cameras have the dual cards, and so there's a backup at that point. But I generally want to get about 4 more made before I go to sleep, or I won't be able to sleep.
Yeah, that's probably a smart move, honestly. Yeah, I just I also do same-day slideshows. So part of kind of backing everything up at the weddings is so I can produce the same-day slideshows. But yeah, speaking of which, so yesterday, and this is kind of health related. Yesterday, I was sitting on this hard concrete floor trying to do the same-day slideshow. You know, like while everybody else is eating and stuff, I'm creating these same-day slideshows and kind of half-ass shoveling food in my mouth. You know, but yesterday I sat on this hard concrete floor and like pretty much under a DJ table because I'm just trying to stay out of the way, and it was the closest outlet I could find. And my back is freaking killing me today. Like seriously, so bad.
Gotta get out your heating pad, man.
Dude, I have a heating pad regimen. I don't know if I ever told you this, but like every single night I actually use a heating pad. Literally every night. Like for 15 minutes.
I hate to break this to you, man, but I think you might be getting old.
Oh man!
The look on your face just then, that was amazing.
I might be getting old.
No. Actually, you know, I've been told more than a few times this year by physical therapists and trainers and whatever that heat promotes healing. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's why I kind of started doing it. Is like I've had back problems for a long time, but I just, every night for like 10, 15 minutes, I'll lay on the heating pad. I find it relaxing as well, too. So I have my heating pad, and then I use this Insight meditation app, and it has like a sleep one. So I'll just kind of do that for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then take the heating pad off, and I'll fall right to sleep.
That's really cool. I just drink 5 glasses of wine, and that works for me.
And like 6 sleeping pills, and I'm ready to roll.
I don't like pills, man. They're wrong. Ever told you why I hate pills? It's like when you take a pill, you're all in. There's no like backing out.
Yeah, that's true. Like you can't. I guess for at least a short period of time, you could probably throw it back up. But like after that point, man, there was no turning back.
There's no tournament. You're all in. That's why I don't like any of those kind of drugs. But I'm like, with alcohol, it's one sip at a time. You can always stop.
And you can kind of pee it out and moderate it, I guess. You know?
Totally, yeah. Have a glass of water and come back.
Yeah, hit up some
alcohol
coffee.
Is my drug of choice. Coffee. Oh, let's talk about coffee.
Yeah,
we need to do an episode for coffee soon.
Dude, we should add coffee to the photo bar, I think. Because we both love freaking beer. We both love coffee. Oh, and hot sauce. Maybe we should add hot sauce in there, too. What the hell can we do with that, though? Hot sauce bar?
Yeah. Oh, we could sample hot sauces.
Yeah, let's ask, all right, listeners, do you want us to add hot sauce to the photo bar? I'm sure they would say definitely yes to coffee. I don't know about hot sauce.
I don't know, but I mean, coffee, I am learning and beginning to actually get good at the pour over. I'm really enjoying the way that it makes the flavor of the coffee really come forth. Mm-hmm. Like, you're always reading those labels on coffee bags and they're like, oh, with hints of blueberry and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, blueberry? But yeah, blueberry. I had a coffee yesterday that I did a pour over and I took the first sip and I'm like, oh my God, I taste blueberry in this. What is up?
Yeah, coffee is actually a lot like wine. You know, like there's a lot of different flavors and different things that affect it and stuff. And I'm really into coffee, and I have I don't know if I told you, but I have a whole basically espresso bar in my house, with it's not an industrial espresso machine, but it's pretty close to it. You know.
Wow.
I have syrups and all that stuff too, but I don't really use them that much for me personally. But I like to make them for other people. It's really fun. There's a lot of science into it. And there's a lot of art into it. So it's kind of like my morning routine of, hey, welcome to science world, welcome to the art world, you know, kind of thing.
I didn't really realize all that. I spent a weird day one day in the studio watching YouTube videos about how to do a proper pour over. You know, and the water should be 195 degrees and it should take this long. And I was like, I think it was the America's Test Kitchen or something. You know, you can really get lost in that channel.
Yeah, all coffee's like that. No matter how you make it, well, other than I guess the homebrew kind of bullshit, where you just pour those old ass grounds into the coffee maker or whatever.
You mean your Folgers, basic Folgers?
Yeah, you pull your Folgers out of the freezer and
you may as well just eat that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Just right out of the bag, just eat it because it's not going to ever taste any better than that. So
yeah, definitely not. But all right, cool. So Matt should be here in just a second. So I guess let's go ahead and jump in with him. I think he's about to come into the bar now. All right. So being a photographer and an entrepreneur in general, I think is really physically taxing, on our bodies and stuff. And I think it's also very mentally and emotionally exhausting. So I figured today we would talk about health and taking care of our bodies, and we brought a really awesome dude to the bar. His name is Matt Daley, and you're an online fitness and nutrition coach, right?
Yeah, mostly training programs, and I've been dabbling with nutrition lately.
Interesting. So how does that work? People can just hire you online?
Yeah, so a lot of it is people can hire me online. It started when I started going to grad school, and I would work with people in person. And as grad school got more intense, I kind of started to cycle some of those clients who, they basically could take the training wheels off and they just needed check-ins. So it started online, and now I'm also experimenting with starting with people online from the get-go.
So you're working with them with fitness and with diet, or how's that?
Yeah, so since most of the people that want to talk to me that have not worked with me in person, they want to start with nutrition. That's what I'm finding.
Yeah.
But usually the people I've worked with in person, they're more, they want to know what their training programs are going to be and how to kind of keep going to reach their goals. They're probably a little more serious with their training though.
Yeah. So what do you find people are asking you most when they come to you for diet and nutrition? What's
the secret? And nobody ever wants to hear it's eat less, move more. But at the end of the day, that's going to be that's going to be the scientific principle behind it. But there's a lot of little things you could do to leverage it, and you can kind of get around some of the things people go, this is the absolute truth. And no, you can make it, you can customize to do anything the way you want to do it. And that's what I help people do. I enable them to reach their goals the way they want to and the way that's going to be best for them.
Oh, that's super cool. So basically, you're kind of like an accountability partner mixed with it education component.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, welcome to the photo bar.
Thank you.
Before we dive in too quick, though, let's go ahead and order our drinks. And I'm going to let Amanda go first because she's a pro at ordering drinks.
Are you saying I'm an alcoholic, man?
No, you're just really good at it.
No, it's okay. I'm an alcoholic, actually. Today I have a beer from an Atlanta brewery called Second South Beer Company. And it's a molé porter. The can says it has cinnamon, cocoa, cloves, chilies, and it's robust. So I'm going to pour this out right now.
Awesome. Matt, what do you got?
All right. I'm drinking a Mercenary Double IPA from Odell Brewing Co. in Colorado.
Oh, nice.
Love that company. They're awesome.
Oh, they're great.
Let me see what I got. So today I got a Weyerbacher, I think it's pronounced, Sunday Mole Stout. So I also got a Sunday Mole, or a Mole Stout here.
All right.
And mine says it's coffee, cocoa, cinnamon, and peppers. That sounds pretty weird.
It sounds like we're drinking about the same thing. You've got a stout. But did you say it was an Imperial?
It does say Imperial.
What's the alcohol content on that?
11.3.
You're gonna get wasted.
That's gasoline.
Yeah, I probably should have checked that. I picked a bunch of beers literally based on the artwork, and this one has this cool crazy clown on it. I don't know if can you guys see that?
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so I just picked it because of that.
Wow, this is a really dark porter.
Oh man, this thing is
like black.
Oh wow. I'll bet where you guys are, it's actually cold enough to enjoy something like a porter or stout.
It is. We were just talking about that.
Yeah. It's like 50 and 40 mile per hour winds here today, so it's miserable outside.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
I had to do a shoot this morning. It was gross. This is really rich. Oh my god. It's got cinnamon, cocoa. Yeah, this is awesome. It's like hot chocolate but beer.
Yeah, mine's pretty good. It almost kind of tastes like whiskey.
Oh, it's because it's 11% alcohol.
Yeah, it's pretty
strong. When they got a batch that only comes out about 6%, they just dump a little Jack Daniels in it too. There we go.
All right. So I guess let's jump into the show today. Talking about health while we drink some beer.
I always find that having a few beers is probably good for your just mental state.
I fully agree. I would not disagree with that at all. That's why we have the photo bar.
Well, actually, if you want to start there, I think one really a good thing that people always forget is mental health is just as important as your physical health. And, people tend to, I think the biggest mistake people make when they jump in to want to do a healthy lifestyle or doing something like that is they want to jump in and all they think about is the physical aspect of it. They don't really think about how this stuff affects how they're thinking. And, you take the aspect of just having a beer every now and then. It's not the most physically healthy thing, but if it's something that helps you relax and can actually enable you to live a better lifestyle overall, that's the better way to go. And I think that's something people overlook a lot.
Yeah, and there's a lot of data about the effect of wine and alcohol on lowering your blood pressure and your stress level and cortisone and all of those things that, add to your general inflammation in your body and stress levels. So I think it's kind of important to do something that helps you unwind, even if it's not alcohol, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's it's kind of funny, and I deal with it a lot being in grad school right now, and I'd assume it's very similar. Just being a photographer that travels, you get really good at getting jacked up, like hyped up when you need to, slamming Monsters or Mountain Dew, whatever you got. Yep. Not quite as good at bringing it down. And I think that's something that, people, you got to practice it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. It's definitely easier to get up than it is down sometimes.
Oh yeah. It's really easy to cycle up. And then when you want to come down, you're just, you're sitting in bed waiting for your heart rate to slow down. It's just going thud, 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 thud.
Yeah. Especially just like yesterday, I shot a wedding and it was like probably a 15-hour day. And then by the time I got home, I couldn't sleep. I was up for an extra 2 hours just because I couldn't go to bed. I guess all the adrenaline and energy drinks and stuff didn't help, but
energy drinks. Are you chugging Monsters again?
No, I usually if it's a really long day, I'll have probably 2 that I take with me to the wedding. I have one earlier in the day and one later in the day, but it's not every day. So
I was gonna say, I think one question I would have for you guys, because you guys, you do a lot of shoots and everything. What is probably the most what is that position that you always end up in that, you feel really cramped in? Like the one that you feel like every wedding you're going, I'm going to have to like get into this kneeling position, or I'm going to have to be in an awkward squat, and I'm going to have to sit there for 30 minutes. Like, what would be that position?
It's pretty much the state of shooting a ceremony is when you're in the center aisle. You have to kneel the entire time, or squat, or crawl, or whatever, right? I mean, do you do that, Matt? You stand down low?
I'm kind of all over the place. So it's like, I'm like 1 minute standing, 1 minute kneeling, next minute climbing a tree, and then I'm like crawling under a table.
In a ceremony.
I'm just kind of all over the place. Yeah, so for me, I mean, it's pretty physically demanding. Or I guess, like, okay, yesterday, for example, like, while everybody was eating, I was quickly editing photos for a same-day slideshow, and I literally sitting on the ground underneath the DJ, like, table, because that was closest thing to the outlet and kind of out of the way and stuff, so I didn't have an option, but the ground was, like, super hard, and my back is killing me today. Like, I can't even sit because it hurts so bad.
But don't you have a back injury?
I do. Well,
yeah.
It's kind of an ongoing thing, so I had, like, a herniated disc, or two of them, probably like 8 to 10 years ago. Not from photography, it was from something completely different. But so I kind of deal with that. It used to be really bad. It got to a point to where I literally couldn't walk without a cane, and sometimes like my sciatic nerve would get pinched, and I would just like fall on the ground randomly in gas stations and shit.
Wow.
So they used to give me pain pills and stuff for it, but that's not really my thing. So I like focus more on, strengthening my back and doing yoga and meditation and stuff to help it out, which it's totally worked. But yeah, it gets
awesome.
Sore sometimes for sure.
I mean, that's literally where I am right now, because I know I told you how my dog threw me down the stairs back in June or July or whatever, and it hit my back really hard on the stairs. So I've been, doing the whole, I don't want to take the pain pills, but I have to take the pain pills. And then I finally, last week, I guess, got started back in the gym, and that's really exciting. So, because it's
yeah.
Very cool.
Doing those little baby exercises, I think I did a step up. I'm like, woo!
Well, it's that thing. You got to start somewhere. You start with what you can do, and then you just do a little bit more every day. That's one of those things. That's the secret behind it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about this job that's really hard on us, is that we go out on the weekends and we run around like crazy, and then we come home and the rest of the week we're really sedentary. And unless you're doing something to counteract that, your muscle tone disappears really rapidly. And I'm really hyper aware of that, because in the past few months I haven't been able to work out like I normally do. And, my weight's not changing, but my body fat has gone a little up, a little up, a little up. And, my body is changing, and things that were easier before are more difficult now, and just ignoring the injury itself, just little things. So, it's exciting to be able to get back to, lifting some weights and doing some cardio and all those things that help keep that under control, so that my job doesn't destroy me.
Yeah, and I think that's, you did the right thing by taking the time off to actually heal. I think sometimes people get so in the mindset of they got to train or they got to keep going, and they just make it worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of which, so as photographers, we often have to deal with like carrying a lot of heavy shit and like walking through deserts and mountains and
I remember.
Yeah, through the city and then like Amanda said, then like we're kind of back home, all week long, like editing photos and stuff, and we're not as active compared to the weekend. I don't know. What is your thoughts on like maybe when we're sitting at home, should we be using like a standing desk, a sitting desk, exercise balls, or what should we do with that?
Well, so, I do like the idea of a standing desk. The only thing I found, though, is every time I work at one, for some reason I can't focus the same. But from everything I've seen, the actual benefit of the standing desk is that you just don't stay in the same position a lot. You fidget. So actually, I work with this guy, and he actually has some of the best posture I've ever seen, and he always sits at his desk. But what he does is he's constantly moving his chair. He's slowly rotating it like 30 degrees at a time and sitting in it still facing his computer. So he's eventually to the point where he's sitting in it and his legs are over the armrests, and then he's got it to where the back of the seat's in front of him and he's got to be sprawled out. And it's just that constant moving around. It's not sitting that's necessarily the problem. but it's staying stationary for so long in the same position.
Interesting.
I was going to say, do you think like a yoga ball is a good thing then? Because that's something that makes you move around a lot.
Yeah, so I think a yoga ball, I think that actually does have a lot of potential because you kind of fidget, you go side to side on it. Mm-hmm. However, I will say that I don't think your legs can really adopt different positions because you kind of have to go with that between the yoga ball and your 2 feet, you have a tripod position. Mm-hmm. And there's not really much else you can do with your feet between there. You could cross a leg or maybe even like kind of take a weird position, but chances are you're going to feel really uncomfortable with it and you're going to go back to that same tripod position. It's the same thing with the chair, but the chair does have the ability to kind of, I guess, just dick around a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. It's funny, because a lot of photographers, I think they use laptops and stuff, so they're like sitting downstairs, like on the couch or, whatever. And I'm only imagining that they don't have like the best postures and stuff, and they're probably, I don't know, laying there or sitting there for longer periods of time. I actually switched to a sit-stand desk earlier this year, so I kind of go back and forth. So sometimes I'll be sitting, and then sometimes I'll be standing. Like right now, I'm standing, and I don't know. Depending on what I'm doing, I'll switch it back and forth, or depending on how I'm feeling that day. Like right now, I can't sit because my back hurts. Yeah, I don't know. I used to use an exercise ball too, and I used to kind of rock on it a lot. But you're definitely right about you can't. There's not too many positions you can really get into, at least comfortably for longer periods of time.
I think just finding the way to sit that kind of lets you channel your inner ADHD.
Yeah, and that's my problem is I do have ADHD, so I'm always just moving around and stuff. I can't sit still for anything, man. You can talk to Amanda; she'll tell you I'm all over the place.
Well, I think that's an interesting idea because you're right. The idea that I had about how it's supposed to be at my desk, you get the diagrams, and they're like, your arm should be at this height and your feet should be here, and it's all very stationary, and it leads you to think that you shouldn't move. But that's what's wrong with sitting is that you're not moving, and that's a really good point.
Yeah, that's it. So I guess that's the takeaway from that.
Right? Yeah. Freedom to wiggle. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you notice now, I'm actually sitting on the ground, and I keep fidgeting like crazy, and that's I actually. Ever since I was a kid, my hips have always been so tight. I can't sit on the ground cross-legged or anything. So I'm constantly fidgeting when I'm on the ground. But now I just kind of go, well, it works. That's going to be one of the more difficult things. Like when you have back hurting, probably going between sit-stand is better for you.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's the same thing when I travel, when I'm flying and stuff. I probably annoy anybody. If I'm in the middle seat, somebody's getting pissed because I'm standing up every 20 minutes. I'm standing up and going to the back. I'm stretching my legs. I'm doing all my little yoga stuff back there, walking through the thing. Then I'll sit down. And
hey, you got to do what you got to do. I mean, other people are always going to be like, "Why is that person making me uncomfortable?" And they just want to sit there and be a blob.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're trying to not be a blob, so it makes them uncomfortable.
Well, that's good. I like making people uncomfortable.
There you go. Good thing you're a wedding photographer.
That's kind of our whole job description is let me make you uncomfortable so you'll giggle.
So I guess let's talk about diet because a lot of photographers they'll always brag about how they're eating an entire bag of jelly beans while they edit, or we're on the go a lot, so we're just eating shit and grabbing McDonald's or whatever. So how important is diet? I guess compared to exercise or something else that we could be doing.
I mean, you gotta really respect the old saying of you can't out-train a bad diet. I think it's kind of staggered. I think, honestly, when people are first starting, training is more important. You're going to get 80% of your results from training alone. Once you've been at it, though, for a few months, diet just becomes more important exponentially. It's just so much more important. But I think that's also one of those things where people view diet as this big wall where it's much more difficult than it actually is.
Yeah, I think so, too. I found, I'm a pretty clean eater. I don't know if you know, actually, I used to be a personal trainer many years ago. We did talk about that. So, and I've always been into clean eating and stuff. And I find, simplicity makes everything much easier. So I've always been really simplistic about food choices. So I pretty much only eat, say, chicken and turkey, and just kind of stick to those two, meats, for example. And then just make stuff that revolves around that as far as vegetables and fruits and things go. And that's kind of what helps change the flavors, I guess, in the different meals.
I'm pretty simplistic too. I pretty much have whiskey and peanut butter. Is that going to be okay?
You get your proteins and I guess the carbs,
I mean, it's organic peanut butter that I get
sugars.
freshly ground from the farmer's market.
But is it organic whiskey?
Actually, you can get organic whiskey, but...
That's ridiculous.
It's so I find what's funny is I think now in the fitness industry you kind of have a lot of people a backlash against clean eating.
Really?
With flexible dieting. And so if you guys don't know, and for any of your listeners who don't know, flexible dieting, to sum it up, is kind of the idea that you have a basic amount of proteins, carbs, and fats. If you hit it, you can manipulate your body weight and your body composition in any way you want, regardless of where that protein, carbs, and fats come from. So, it could be all protein powder and pancakes. You hit the numbers right, you're going to still have a six-pack. You're not necessarily going to be healthy. So
that does sound kind of scary.
That's kind of the caveat there. But, and some people do take it to that extreme. Some people kind of go, I'm eating nothing but Pop-Tarts and chicken breasts. And they're hitting their numbers. And, I mean, these are people, they'll go to a bodybuilding show and they look amazing.
Later, when they drop dead from a heart attack, you're like, oh.
Well, yeah, and there's other problems that can come out, and it's also just psychological issues, and just when you kind of are missing out on that much micronutrients and food that's actually filling and satiating. And so I find that the best way is actually a camp between the two, which a lot of people just call smart flexible dieting, which kind of goes, you can do that, but 80% of your calories probably should come from clean, whole food sources. Any of the people that are extreme on the flexible diet ending are going to comment on this going, he didn't define what clean is, but just don't get into a war with those people. You can't win.
That's interesting because I guess that's kind of how I do things. I didn't know it was called something fancy like that though, but that's kind of what I do. Like I'll have like little cheat meals and cheat days and things like that. But I mean, I'm pretty much focused on clean eating for the most part, but I will grab fast food here and there, or have M&Ms or whatever, just all within reason, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest benefit from it is if you kind of have it laid out that you should probably eat lean meats and a lot of vegetables most of the time, but it's okay if you occasionally have some McDonald's or some Burger King. Then all of a sudden having McDonald's or Burger King every now and then loses some of its pull when it's completely forbidden. That's all you can think about, and then you go 2 weeks without it, and you say you're feeling great. Then on that 15th day, you go to McDonald's every single meal, and you kind of have a yeah. And I mean, it usually doesn't stop at one day. People kind of have a relapse, and that's that's kind of the strong point of flexible dieting is that it does help. It can help prevent that relapse that you get from hard restriction.
Do you find that like using apps or anything? Like I use like MyFitnessPal, for example, for like my food.
That's a great app,
I use like water reminder for water to make sure I get enough water every day, so it like sends me an alert. And I also use like an Apple Watch and stuff, and I like having the gamification aspects of it, I guess, to where I'm
absolutely. Yeah.
I kind of see that with my other friends and stuff. I'm like, oh fuck, they're eating good today. I better step up my game, like. Yeah.
So you're competitive, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure.
Hey, competition's going to drive you.
Yeah, I mean, do you think stuff like that is good, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think MyFitnessPal and what are the other ones? Like My Macros Plus, Fat Secret, Lose It. These are all they're all apps that basically are the same thing. You can track your food, and that's what's really enabled a lot of people to take a lot more control of their diets, I feel like.
Yeah, I do too. Like when I put the stuff in there and I see what it is I'm putting in there, like say I'm eating pretty clean, and I put that Big Mac in there or whatever, or whatever junk food that I might be eating that day. I'm like, then I kind of look at the details of it. I'm like, oh man, fuck, like that's a lot of cholesterol, or that's a lot of sugar. Yeah. But you don't really realize that. Even if you look in the nutrition info, it doesn't seem that bad when you're reading it and eating it, I guess, or when you're tracking it and comparing it to other things.
When you see that handy pie chart and you're like, oh, I had 700 grams of fat today.
Yeah. Do you have a whiskey section on yours?
Oh, you should, man. Well, I joke around, but I'm actually a pretty clean eater too. I read a book a couple of years ago that really changed how I approach food entirely. There's this book called The Dorito Effect. Have you heard about that book?
No, I haven't.
So it starts out where they're like doing this experiment on sheep or goats or something, and they're trying to figure out how they figure out what to eat. And basically what they come to conclude is that animals instinctively know what to eat when their body needs something. And so if an animal has an upset stomach or whatever, they know to go eat this thing instinctively. They don't know that this plant's going to make their tummy feel better. They just know that they need to eat, they crave that plant. And so humans are supposed to have that wired into us too. And we do get food cravings, but the food industry has sort of
fuck that,
fritzed it up, with all the chemical additives and stuff. And so the book goes through pretty much from the start, and it's called the Dorito Effect because Doritos were the first time that food flavorings really fooled anyone.
So, actually related to that so it's there are a lot of things with food additives they'll add, but really one of the things, and I think the book is called Sugar, Salt, Fat.
Oh yeah, I read that one too. That's a good book.
And you find the perfect ratio about that, and I think similar to the Doritos, they talk about the development of the Cheeto. And the development of the Cheeto is just supposed to be the thing that hits your tongue and it instantly makes your brain go more
exactly.
Is needed.
They're totally designed to addict you. And so it's like once you know that, it's so much easier to walk into the grocery store and if you walk down one of those middle aisles, be like, fuck you and fuck you and fuck you. I'm not buying that.
You're cool. Fuck you.
I'm going to go over here. Right? Because it just makes you mad because definitively that you're being manipulated.
You're being screwed by money.
And they know that it's making us sick, and they don't care because they're cashing in, and they don't even eat the crap they make.
No, and I think that's one thing that does empower a lot of people is learn the way that this food has been made. Like, as in my day job, I'm an engineer, and so one thing I can respect is the engineering that goes into this is just it's beautifully well done. But as a human, I'm going, this sickens me.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard even the way like the Doritos Crunches, for example, or the way the chocolate melts on your tongue and stuff is all. I mean, the marketing behind it is freaking genius.
I'm going to send you both copies of this book because it's like it's all about that.
Oh yeah, I'll be looking into it because I think I need to read the Dorito Effect now.
Yeah. I mean, it's had a lot of crossover with the Salt, Sugar, Fat book. I mean, because they add more sugar to make you want it more. And then that's one of the side effects of so much sugar being in all of our processed food is that we're numb to the flavor of sugar and we crave more. We need more, like heroin. We just need more, right? And so I've not been eating processed sugar for, I don't know, a year or two now. And so to me, a banana is like the sweetest thing in the whole world, whereas before a banana was like, it was boring, but yeah, your taste buds come back after you get rid of all that junk out of your life.
Yeah, that is crazy. Like, even if, say you have, I don't know, like a Mountain Dew or a Hershey bar, and then you have that banana, like that banana is nowhere near as sweet as the Hershey bar is. So it's, like, not even on the same level, so you want more. Yeah, it's crazy. Sugar is, like, the most insane drug ever.
It really is.
Well, it can be, yeah, and it's, it's one of those things it can get out of hand very quickly. I think that's one of the funny things with a lot of the people in the diet community, because either people are going, sugar really isn't bad. It's, your total calories that matters, which is somewhat true. And then they'll also go, no, sugar is the devil, which is also too extreme. And you got to fall into that middle where it's like, it's the kind of thing, it lights up your brain, and your brain will then want it. But at the end of the day, your brain is still something that, your brain is the tool for your experience, but it is not the thing that guides your experience completely. Like, you still have to make the decision. And that's kind of the thing where people go, no, I want it, and so therefore I'll have it. And you have to start exercising that discipline.
So we can't have like a 2,000 calorie a day diet, but eat only Twinkies?
Well,
I mean, that's like 3 Twinkies, dude. What are you going to do the rest of the day?
Well, that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
God, have you ever heard of Mark Hobb, the professor who went on the Twinkie diet?
No. Oh my God.
So this guy, he was proving that it's calorie count that matters, and I mean this is usually cited a lot for a lot of people that are pro flexible dieting, and it's 3 months where he just did a 7-Eleven diet, and it was Twinkies, Oreos, soda, water, some protein shakes, only things he could buy at a 7-Eleven, and he lost 15 pounds, 20 pounds, something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean, and his cholesterol improved and everything. I'm sure if it would have continued, there would be some micronutrient imbalance. But there is some cases where you could do something that crazy and it'll work. But why would you want to? It's not the best way to do it.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It seems like he would start turning more into body fat. I mean, even though he's like losing weight.
Yeah.
It just seems like he would gain more
well,
fat.
I mean, but was he intentionally limiting his calories?
Yes, he was.
Was that the point of the thing? So he was taking an X number of calories, end of story. So yeah, he would lose weight. He would just also get a lot of cavities and maybe get diabetic. Actually, I guess technically if you're losing weight, then you're managing your insulin, and so you're not going to be diabetic. But
Yeah.
cavities, he's going to have cavities.
Well, yeah, and it was the kind of thing where he goes, he did it to prove a point, but the point wasn't that you should eat this way. It was just that, the scientific principle underlying it is calories in, calories out. You should build upon that to then make a healthier diet.
I guess speaking of nothing, let's talk about one last thing real quick, and that would be sleep.
Excellent segue, man.
You like that segue? It's
that
so
was
smooth.
nice.
Like,
It's
talking about
smooth.
nothing. And I think that's another thing that, I mean, at least as an entrepreneur, I mean, photographers for sure, but I guess anybody that's an entrepreneur or probably just people in general, I'd say, at least in America, we have a severe lack of sleep. So how, I guess, important is that?
I'll tell people all the time, sleep is your lead domino. If no matter what problem, whatever problems you're having, like you could clean up your diet, you could train 5 days a week, and if you're sleeping 5 hours a day, it's just not enough. Like,
well, shit.
Yeah, that's funny because I used to for a long time I did like a 4 to 5 hour sleep thing. So that was like my routine. I would only sleep 4 to 5 hours, but I would take naps kind of throughout the day. But then I switched about a year and a half ago to sleeping actual full 8 hours, but I still take a nap pretty much every day, usually for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes every day.
Can I have your schedule?
You're living the dream, man.
All you have to do is get a 2-year-old.
So did you know that guru Tim Ferriss?
Yeah, I know, Tim.
Yeah, the 4-hour work week and all that. He did like he's tried all the kinds of sleeping,
Polyphasic and everything.
all of that stuff. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because he did a write up on the results of it at some point. But there's a lot of data about different creative people throughout history who've used different methods of sleep. Like Michelangelo would sleep 15 minutes every 2 hours or some crazy thing like that. I was just, do you really think any of that works? Or do you really think it's just to get the solid 8 hours?
Honestly, you have to look at it from a statistical point of view. And so polyphasic sleep, if you can pull it off, it can work. I knew a couple of guys in college that tried it, and it worked. The problem is you miss one of those 15-minute naps in that 2-hour window. Mm-hmm. Your sleep is then, you're screwed up for months.
Really?
It'll just, it's a very finely tuned system, and it has no room for variance. And the other thing is, because a lot of creative people have said they have these crazy cycles or sleep cycles and everything, but there's also been a lot of creative people who didn't. Mm-hmm. They had normal sleep cycles, and when you look at it from the statistical point of view, we all want to think we're the person that can get by on 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep just fine, and that we're not impacted by it. Statistically speaking, we're not. We are the person that's going to sleep 4 hours, and it's then we're going to just completely bomb a test, or we're going to take terrible pictures in your guys' foot. So it's that kind of thing where I kind of go, play to the statistics, try to get the 8 hours, and then if you can get the 8 hours solid, and then you start dialing it back to like 6 hours a night, and you notice no difference in that case, then you're probably better. But it's for the most part, play to the mean. You're probably the average and not very special, as depressing as that may sound.
I mean, obviously you're not talking about present company, but
oh no, never.
That's kind of what I found too. Like I found like getting a solid routine was really critical for me. Like being able to go to bed and waking up at the same times or close to the same times pretty much every single day, which there again, if you have a toddler, that works really well for that kind of alarm clock. So pretty much every day I'll get up usually around 6:30, because he'll get up about 7:30, so that gives me a little time to kind of like maybe I can meditate and make my coffee and maybe read a book before he wakes up. And then I'll take a nap, for about 30 minutes in the middle of the day. And splitting up my work, in the days, like even when I take him to school or whatever. So I'll work during the day. I'll still take a nap and then work kind of throughout the evening too. I find that I'm more productive, like say by taking that nap and staying on that routine than if I'm not.
Well, it's the funny thing with routine is people think routine and they go, oh, it's boring and predictable. And I try to tell any client I have, think of routine as momentum.
That is kind of mind-bending.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you have the right routine, you could do something like wake up every morning, and if you're going to meditate, you slowly build up this meditation practice. Or if you're going to wake up every morning and just, do something for 5 minutes, it's the routine, it builds. And it really does become momentum.
Yeah. That whole sleeping thing, I struggle with building a routine. I can't get onto the whole schedule of going to sleep at the same time every day and all of that. I've never been able to do that. That's something that I really haven't, cracked the code for. But I made a conscious effort this year to get enough sleep. Mm-hmm. And, because we're talking about apps and everything. I have a Fitbit, and it tracks the sleep you get. It tells you what how many hours you slept last night, how many hours you're in bed, and how many hours you're awake, and when, and all that. And so, I made it a practice to at least get 7 hours sleep every night. And I find that the weeks where I average 7 hours sleep, I'm actually enormously more productive and I get more stuff done. And then, when I slip below that, I start to get less productive. And my overall average as a person who's left to her own devices is actually less than 6, because I'm a night owl and I tend to stay up too late, and then I have to get up and be a grown up, and that sucks. So... But that one change really affects so much of your life. Just getting enough sleep really makes you not just more productive at work, but it makes you eat less. There's a lot of data about if you don't get enough sleep, you crave carbs. I think you and I were talking about that earlier. Yeah. And so that you're right. It is the first domino, though, because it made it easier to do all the other things I knew I needed to do.
Yeah. And, one of the things that you can do if... because for some people, more sleep isn't an option. I've worked with some people that are like that, and it's you can't squeeze any more time out of it. And so what they'll do is we focus on what's called sleep hygiene.
Tell me more.
I'm completely spacing on a guy who wrote a book recently. He has a podcast called The Model Health Show. Really bright guy. So one of the things he talks about is sleep hygiene, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's how clean is your sleep? So how efficient is it?
Uh-huh.
And there are things you can do to really, get more out of if you only have 6 hours to go to sleep, you can do things to get more out of that 6 hours. Because, there's certain ratios of the amount of time you're spending in REM sleep and deep sleep versus light sleep. And if you're in light sleep the whole time, you're not going to feel very good when you wake up, no matter how much time you got.
Right.
And so there's a lot of things they do for that. I think some of the tips he has are, it's the classics like, don't look at a screen a few hours before.
That's not going to happen.
Personally, I go, let's be realistic. That's no. If anything, things that change your screen to kind of an orangish tint, if possible. But, things like have your bedroom cooler. Just a lot of studies have shown that, if you actually have it at a cooler temperature, you're going to get more efficient sleep overall.
I mean, I knew I liked it cooler. I didn't know that was actually a statistic or data or anything. That's kind of nice to know.
But I've also heard, if you keep your feet outside your covers, then it helps you fall asleep faster.
The monsters will get them. You can't do that.
Well, there again, that's what my son says. But I do that.
You stick your feet out?
Yeah. Just my feet. My entire body is covered with the exception of my feet.
Dude, I think you're doing it wrong.
Everything. Are the feet on the pillow, too?
No, they don't get their own pillow. That's where my dog sleeps.
It's a lot of that's because where you expel most of the heat through your feet and your hands, or maybe not most, but a majority of it. I think the most comes out of your head.
See, I got my thinking cap on. That's why.
There you go.
It looks like the bar is about to close, so we're gonna have to start wrapping things up here. But I guess what is the number one tip you can give someone, or I guess maybe the most important thing that we've talked about today? I mean, obviously you said sleep because that's like the number one domino. I guess is there anything else?
I think the number one thing would be no matter what you're going to do to try to be healthier, don't try to make an extreme change. Just do it piece by piece. Like you gotta, like we were saying, routine is momentum, and build that momentum. And that's what you need to do. Whether it's sleep, whether it's diet, whether it's training. If you can only do it for 10 minutes a day, go in, do your 10 minutes, get out, and then slowly build it, and it'll come.
So baby steps.
Yeah, pretty much.
What was that movie? What was that movie?
What About Bob?
Yeah, that's it. Baby steps.
She's the bomb.
All right, cool. Well, thanks so much for your time. Before we leave, though, where can people find you?
You can find me on social media. I'm most active on Instagram at Brawn4Brains. And you can also read my blog, brawn4brains.com.
Awesome.
I'm
Yeah,
totally
you can see a lot of good stuff on there because he's like in there climbing ropes and shit and doing squats. And it's like, you just feel lazy because you're just sitting there looking at Instagram.
I almost forgot. This last May, I did release a book. So you can find that. Sorry, completely spaced that. It's called From the Ground Up. You can find it on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle.
Awesome.
All right, we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Thank you.
That way people can find that nice and easy. And before you leave the bar, you have to tell us what you think of your beer and if you would recommend it, and then how many stars you would give it out of 5.
So, again, my beer, to recap, was the Mercenary Double IPA from Odell. I would give it a 5 out of 5. Then again, I also don't really rate Miller Lite too low, so that's what I am.
All right.
Nothing wrong with Miller Lite if you need to get hydrated. It's mostly water and about 0.3% alcohol, so you're doing well there.
Exactly. I just got back from camping, so that was the water.
That is it. You put that right in your Camelback. It's awesome.
What about you, Amanda? How would you rate yours today?
Oh, I love this one. I was gifted this from a client. We had it when we were doing their engagement shoot, and I fell in love with it, and they sent me home with a 6-pack, and I've been drinking it all week, and it's one of my new favorites. So I'm going to give it a solid 4 out of 5.
Oh, okay. And on mine, I had mixed opinions at first. So at first, I wasn't a big fan. Like the first couple drinks, I was like, I don't know about this. And then about halfway through, I was like, oh, this isn't bad. And now I'm like, well, fuck, I really like this. So,
got a great buzz. I'm so
like,
drunk.
I think that's the problem. It has too much alcohol in it. So you're going to eventually.
If you have any left, you can run a lawnmower on it.
So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
All right.
You guys are tough.
I'm just saving room for something really good. You just never know.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool, Matt. Well, thank you again for stopping by, and I'm sure we'll have you again in the future.
Anytime.
All right, so I hope you liked that episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts on health and what you do to stay in shape and keep sane. You can join us in the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/photobar podcast, or you can just search, in the Facebook search bar for Photo Bar Podcast and find it there as well. You can email me directly at photobarpodcast@gmail.com. And as always, if you want to check out my work, you can find me on my website at matthewdruin.com. Instagram is at mattdruin. Twitter is at matthewdruin. Facebook is at matthewdruin photography. And where can people find you, Amanda?
You can find me on Instagram at the Amanda Summerlin, and my website is amandasummerlin.com. You can also find me on Facebook, and that's at Amanda Summerlin Photography.
And make sure that you never miss an episode. So be sure here to hit the subscribe button and do it now, because I know you'll forget in 5 minutes. And be sure to leave a 5-star glowing review on iTunes, Google Play Store, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts at, because it helps us stay motivated in creating this content, and it helps other people find the podcast. So that'd be awesome if you would do that. But other than that, that wraps up this episode, and we'll talk to you guys next time. For me, I think it would be the missionary position.